You know, some betrayals don't come with a shout. They come in the dead of night on a screen that lights up a lonely room. That's how it started for me. A single email that threatened to erase my father from the world. And the only person I could turn to was the man who promised him he'd never let that happen. It was late in my Chicago apartment when my phone lit up. An email from my mother. Jennifer, the subject line was just workshop. My heart dropped. The email was short. Venus, Kevin, and I have decided we're selling the workshop to his investors. I need you to sign the papers to release your co-ownership from your father's will. This is for my future. Betrayal, cold and instant. Before I could even process it, a second email landed. This one from a law firm I didn't recognize. On behalf of our client, Kevin Doyle, we are authorized to offer you a sum of $10,000 for your full and immediate release of all claims. $10,000 for my father Michael's entire life's work. Have you ever felt like an outsider in your own family, especially when a loved one's legacy is on the line? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to know if we share that feeling. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I didn't even feel the hot flush of anger I expected. Instead, a cold, sharp clarity settled over me. This wasn't a family drama. This was an attempted theft. I ignored the $10,000 insult and called Grandpa Harry, my father's oldest friend. He wasn't a lawyer, but he was my dad's first mate in life, the keeper of all his promises, and the only one who knew every secret of our family's legacy. It went to voicemail, but I didn't hesitate. Harry, it's Venus. I'm sorry for the hour, but it's happening. They're trying to sell the workshop. They are in breach. Activate the artisan clauses immediately. Freeze all transactions, all assets. I'm on the first flight to Maine in the morning. I hung up, opened my laptop, booked a one-way ticket from Chicago to Portland, and then I opened my encrypted files. You see, they made a critical mistake. They thought I was the estranged daughter, the one who ran off to the big city to become a successful architect and forget about them. They forgot that I was also the silent architect. They forgot who co-signed the original expansion loan with my father when no bank would give him the time of day. They forgot who pored over the legal contracts, who drafted the blueprints for the new wing, and who insisted on that tiny ironclad clause, the artisan clause, a little provision I'd slipped in specifying that the property could only be used for master-level custom craft. It legally forbade any mass production, any cheap knockoffs. It was a fail-safe designed to protect my father's art from a world that valued speed over soul. I just never imagined I'd have to use it to protect him from his own wife. They also conveniently forgot about the last 3 years. After Dad died, my mother couldn't handle the finances. The workshop, his legacy, was 2 months from a tax auction. I got the notice. I didn't call her. I didn't lecture her. I just paid it. $12,000 wired from my Chicago account. I'd been paying the property taxes in secret ever since. They saw me as the daughter who left. They were about to meet the partner who never did. But the $12,000 for the taxes was just maintenance. The real investment was the $85,000 structural restoration I'd funded 4 years ago, just after Dad died, and just before Kevin slithered into my mother's life. Dad and I had designed it together. He called it the Foundation Project. He knew the main workshop, built in the 1940s, was failing. The sea air was rotting the beams, the roof was sagging. He was a master boat builder, but not an engineer. I was. I flew home 3 weekends in a row, took structural surveys, drew up the plans, hired the contractors myself, and paid for all of it. $85,000. It wasn't a gift. It was an investment in our shared legacy. I sent my mother the paid invoices, thinking I was protecting her future, protecting our future. I was naive. I thought I was protecting the workshop from the world, not from my own mother. The next morning my phone erupted. It was Jennifer, my mother. I was in a cab from the airport, the cold Maine coastline whipping past the window. I answered. It wasn't a hello, it was a shriek. "Venus, what did you do? Grandpa Harry just froze the accounts. Kevin's investors are furious. He's going to lose the deal. You're destroying everything." I kept my voice perfectly level. "I'm protecting what Dad built." "What Dad built?" she scoffed. "Dad is gone, Venus. This is about my future, my life. You have your fancy life in Chicago. What do you care?" Before I could answer, I heard a muffled, angry voice. "Kevin, you think you're smart, don't you, you little brat? You think you can waltz in here with that old man? That workshop is mine. I'm the one who's been running it." "Running it into the ground, you mean?" I said. The coldness in my own voice surprised me. "You'll regret this," he snarled. "You're going to get nothing." The line went dead. The anger still wasn't hot, it was crystalline, precise. An hour later, my phone buzzed again. A Facebook notification. My grandmother, Susan, had tagged me in a post. It was from my mother, a public post on the town's community page. "It's just so sad," she wrote. "When children forget who raised them, when they get so successful and cold-hearted that they try to steal their own mother's future. Please pray for us. We are being attacked by our own family." That was it. That was the moment the last thread of daughterly obligation snapped. She hadn't just chosen him over me. She had chosen him over my father's memory. And she had just given me permission to wage total, uncompromising war. I flew into Portland and met Grandpa Harry at his little cottage by the shore. He was waiting on the porch, 2 mugs of tea in his gnarled hands. His face was grim, but his eyes, the color of the sea-worn sky, were sharp. "Knew you'd come, girl," he said, his voice a low rumble. "Your dad, he always said you had more fight in your pinky than most men have in their whole bodies." He slid a thick document across the weathered table between us. It was the original partnership agreement. He pointed a crooked finger to a paragraph highlighted in yellow, the artisan clause. "The property shall be used exclusively for the purpose of master-level custom craft. Any mass production or sale of prefabricated goods shall be considered a material breach of this deed." "Kevin Doyle isn't a boat builder," Harry said. "He's a kit assembler. He's been buying cheap fiberglass hulls from overseas and passing them off as Morgan-inspired designs." "So the injunction holds," I said. "It holds," Harry confirmed. "But to win the lawsuit, we need to prove damages. Not just breach of contract, but the desecration of the legacy the clause was designed to protect." "Then we need to do an audit," I said. We drove to the workshop, my childhood home. I hadn't been back in 4 years. The house looked neglected, the garden replaced with gravel, but it was the workshop that made my blood run cold. Kevin was there, standing by the bay doors, a beer in hand. "The conquering hero returns," he smirked. "Come to see what a real business looks like." I ignored him, scanning the room. I felt like I was walking through a crime scene. "Where is it?" I asked quietly. "Where's what?" "The lathe, Dad's workbench. The one he built from the salvage mast of the Albatross." Kevin gestured toward a pile of scrap wood. That old piece of junk rotted out, had to tear it out. Made space for the new finishing station. He pointed to a cheap particle board table. I pulled out my phone. "Harry," I said, "please document. My father's hand-forged tools and gone. The pegboard and empty. The oak beams and painted grey. In the main bay where Dad's half-finished schooner once stood were 3 identical fiberglass motorboats. This wasn't neglect, it was extermination." "He's not just in breach of contract," I said to Harry. "He's committing fraud, stolen craft, using my father's name to sell this garbage." Kevin's face went purple. "You can't prove a damn thing." "We'll see," I said. "Get a full accounting. I want every blueprint, every penny." I turned to Kevin. "You should have taken the $10,000. I thought it was just a legal battle. I was wrong." That evening, Harry called me. His voice was tight. "Venus, I found it. It's not just a breach, it's criminal. The $85,000 restoration loan," he said. "The money you wired 4 years ago. It never went to the contractors. Kevin intercepted it. He stole it. He did worse. He convinced your mother to pay the contractors herself, telling her it was a cash flow issue. Then he took your $85,000 and used it to pay off gambling debts. And he used the cleared property as collateral for another $85,000 business loan, forged your mother's signature, and tried to forge yours too. The bank caught it. This wasn't about cheap fiberglass. This was a systematic plot to gut our family and sell its bones. How? I whispered. How could she let this happen? She wasn't blind, Harry said, his voice softening with a sad wisdom. She was trapped, emotionally dependent. After your father died, Kevin made her feel seen again. By the time his mask slipped, she was too deep. It's called learned helplessness, when fear of being alone outweighs fear of abuse. I understood, but understanding and forgiving are very different things. He didn't just defraud a bank, I said. He preyed on a grieving widow. He targeted my family. What are you asking me to do? Harry asked. File it, all of it. Civil, criminal, breach, fraud. Send it to the DA. No more negotiations. The final confrontation came fast. Harry, the sheriff, and I arrived at the workshop. Kevin and Jennifer were there, loading boats onto a trailer, trying to flee before the injunction was served. Kevin saw us and shouted, "You can't be here. This is my property." "It was never yours," I said, holding up the document, the artisan clause. "You violated this the second you brought this plastic trash here." The sheriff stepped forward. Kevin went pale. My mother ran toward me, sobbing. "Venus, please don't do this. We'll lose everything." "This," I said, gesturing at the workshop, "is not a future. It's a desecration. If you ever loved me, do this for me," she cried. I looked at her and saw not my mother, but a stranger. "I'm not doing this to you, Jennifer," I said. "I'm doing this for Dad." I handed the sheriff the folder. "This is the injunction. And this," I said, tapping the binder, "is the criminal complaint. Evidence of bank fraud, forgery, and theft." The sheriff turned to Kevin. "Kevin Doyle, you're under arrest for fraud and forgery." Kevin exploded, screaming threats as he was cuffed. My mother collapsed, sobbing in the gravel. I didn't look at her. I turned to the empty workshop, the oil stains where my father's bench had stood. "Goodbye, Jennifer," I said and walked away. Kevin was convicted on all counts: forgery, fraud, larceny. Sentenced to 7 years in prison. The local paper called him the con man who tried to steal the Morgan legacy. My mother wasn't charged. The DA saw her as a victim of emotional abuse. She moved in with my aunt and began therapy. Our relationship isn't fixed, but it's not over. I spent the next month in Maine restoring the workshop, tearing out Kevin's trash, stripping paint, cleansing the space. Harry was there every day, handing me tools, sharing stories of my dad, his presence a steady anchor in the storm. On the last day, while sweeping, my broom hit something solid, a loose plank. I pried it up and found my father's tool roll wrapped in oilcloth. His hand-forged chisels, brass marking gauge, and custom mallets perfectly preserved. I sat on the dusty floor holding them and finally cried. Harry put a gentle hand on my shoulder. "He knew you'd be the one to find it, Venus. He always said you had the clearest eyes and the strongest heart of any of us." For so long I carried guilt about leaving, told myself I was the cold daughter who abandoned her family. But sitting there I realized, sometimes leaving isn't betrayal, it's survival. Distance isn't weakness, it's training. I stood, walked to the surviving drafting table, and unrolled my father's blueprints for the schooner he never finished. Then I laid out my own, the Michael Morgan Institute of Artisan Craft. The workshop was quiet. It was no longer a tomb. It was a foundation. But as I looked over those blueprints with Harry, he pointed to a smudge in the corner, a mark in my father's handwriting I'd never seen before. It was a coordinate. And finding what it leads to will change the meaning of my father's legacy forever. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please hit that like and subscribe button. But more importantly, tell me, what is real justice? Is it punishment or restoration? And what do you think that coordinate leads to? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.